Hey everybody, welcome back. Can you believe it? It's the 40th episode about the Ferrari 360 swap Porsche 914 here at the Red Barn. Maybe you can help me celebrate by clicking that subscribe button if you haven't already. And as always, leave me a comment, leave me a question. I really appreciate it. It all helps. So in this episode, we're going to do a check-in on the kitties, and we're going to get back to finishing up this pedal assembly. And I'm not sure what else I want to work on. I'm going to make it up as I go along, and we'll see where we end up. Enjoy! Let's see what happens. We're gonna show them play paper. Oh, there's Mama JJ. Hi, Julep. There's Punch Man. There's Smash Man. And there's Toddy.
What is that?
What is all this stuff, kitties? Oh, there's Vesper. Oh, look at the tail up kitties. Very, very excited with the tail ups. Oh, this is all brand new to them. We just got some packing paper, which kitties typically love. They'll love to play around in this once they settle into what it is. Yeah, so today we want to talk just very briefly about the fact that kitties, when they're very young, have no ability to retract their claws. And their little needle ninja paws that they've got. And anytime they touch you, they scratch you. Or stick to you, yep. And or stick to whatever they're touching. Oh, there she goes. What's she doing? Oh, they're gonna start playing. They're already over the paper. But anyway, little sharp kitty claws. And what you never ever want to do is declaw a cat. People often misunderstand declawing as sort of the same as you know, like trimming your fingernails or something like that. But what's important to know is a cat's claw is essentially equivalent to your first knuckle. So declawing a cat is the same as chopping off your fingers at the first knuckle. So never ever declaw a cat. It can give, you know, it can lead to really sort of bad emotional and mental stress for the cats. It's, you know, imagine if somebody cut your fingertips off. There are super easy to use tools for doing nail trimming, and the idea of socializing these kitties, one of the things that we work on is handling them pretty regularly and, you know, rubbing their feet and rubbing their ears and getting them used to being touched. And with the cats we've done that with, when it comes time to do nail trims, it's a non-event. So the PSA for today is never ever declaw a cat. They're actually trying to pass law in California to make it illegal to do it. Don't do it. Anyway, as far as cats who scratch furniture, oftentimes it's because they don't have appropriate play items like this scratching post. You can see on most of the cat furniture, there are rope wrapped sections. Like on this, there's carpeted sections. And then these are these stacked up pieces of corrugated cardboard, just scratching pads. And it's really fascinating. They go to this stuff naturally. And as look at, he's trying it right now. There he goes. Look at, perfect timing, puncher. Way to demo, buddy, way to demo. Look at that face. Oh man, look at that boy. So that is exactly an example. I mean, obviously we didn't train them to do that, but they naturally go to things that appeal to them to scratch. If they don't have something like that, then your furniture might find itself victim. But one of the interesting things that we've seen is down at Morty's, they have a couch that has been there since they opened, what, 3 years ago?
3 years.
3 years in September. And there's not one snag on that couch. And there have been hundreds of cats in and out of that location. So as long as they've got other stuff to scratch, they're in great shape. So never declaw, always nail trim, and provide your animals with appropriate scratching items, and you'll be fine. Oh, there's Todd. Hi, Todd. Oh, get her. And the Punch Man's got a piece of bark. Very scary piece of bark. Toddy's going up the walls. Smash is going after her. Vesper's chewing on Smash's tail. Punch is ignoring everything. It's just a kitty fest out here. These guys are the greatest. Get him. Another good example of why you want to raise kitties together. But there's a good example of how big Punch is compared to Vesper. Look at that boy. Uh-oh. Got yourself into it this time, didn't you? He's not helping. Okay, before we get started on this week's episode, I thought it'd be fun to talk about the use of unexpected items on a build. And as you saw last time, I used part of an industrial table leg as that chassis stiffening component for the pedal assembly. And as far as using an unexpected item, I think I'm in pretty good company. And as my first piece of evidence, I would like to offer this. This is a Porsche 911 reimagined by Singer. As many of you guys know, I'm sure these are crazy builds. Super expensive, the quality is off the charts, fit and finish is ridiculous. And let me draw your attention to that super cool muffler cover. Corrugated, purposeful, just a lovely, lovely piece. Now look at this. That's a 1965 Mustang gas tank. Yep, a 1965 Mustang gas tank. So when it comes to using unexpected items on a build, I think I'm in pretty good company. So I'm sticking with the table leg. And there are the nuts welded onto the back of the backer plate. And then once everything cools down, whenever I weld those nuts on there, I always think it's a good idea to run the appropriate tap through there. And there that is, tapped and all mounted back together. All right, now here's this inner brace that's going to tie into the curve up where the old master cylinder used to go, and yes, that hole will get filled in, but this is going to weld all of the bottom of the chassis. It's going to weld to the side of the tunnel right there, and then it'll get welded to the plate once the plate's ready to go in permanently. But I wanted to get that located, and then I can always come back and trim openings in it if I need to. I obviously have that opening at the top to get things inside the tunnel, but I may choose to do something else. I don't know yet, but that's what's going to happen. And I'm going to MIG this because it's just so much easier to get it to tack in place when working in the footwell like this. So I'm just going to buzz this in. Now I can get to the hole underneath of it. Oh man, working in the footwell is no fun on a hot day. But there's that plate in, and I just dressed the welds a little bit and did some necessary reshaping because obviously the plate gets in there and it moves invariably a teeny bit, and this was a pretty good fit, so I had to trim the front corner of this to get it back into place. And then I marked and drilled for all the plug weld holes I want to make. I figured out where the rib would be here, and I just drilled a set of plug weld holes in there so that when this is all in here, the rib is available to those holes, but that is going to go nowhere. You know, not to mention the floor brace, which I'll get to next. So that's ready to go in. Frightening, you know, this is like, make sure it's in the right place. Wah! And there's the plate plug welded. not cleaned up at all, just plug welded. Just a couple of little stitches there to tie that down. And then I popped the pedals out and just knocked down the tops of all those plug welds. So that is the inside, top side, essentially done. I am gonna go back around and add a couple of stitch welds to the outside of that plate just to completely lock it down. But if we go under the car, you can see here, I decided to plug weld that top plate in before going after finish welding these patch panels, because now I can just weld right up against the bottom of that plate. And then this piece is trimmed up and ready to go. And here you can see how the plug welds all penetrated through the floor here. And then this piece will go, it's not going to sit down because there's a couple of welds it's running into, but this gives you the general idea. This just sneaks right up against the side of this. And when that gets locked down in all places, this floor will be super strong. And after, I don't know, many, many hours under the car and lots of consumables and done, it feels like a gallon of grinding dust. Man, it was messy working under here. But the stiffening rib is in. So that's all spot welded in, welded across the back, it's welded across the front. I tidied up the floor welds, and then by the time this all gets undercoated, it's gonna get like Raptor liner or something, I'm not sure what, but it'll get undercoated and painted and all that stuff will disappear. I'll seam seal around all these edges, so this will be all nice and tidied up and waterproof and all that good stuff. So, under the car, done. And one last time, we have a installed pedal assembly. I did just stitch this corner or this little edge down and then a little bit up there, and I added a bit more weld where that side plate meets the floor plate. And I don't think I'm gonna go after anything here. It's just not necessary. That thing is so stable on the bottom now. I'm calling that done, and now we are on to the next thing. And with everything final welded, I got the seam sealer done and squirted just a little bit of primer on the raw metal areas. So we're all set under here. And then one final look from the inside at this whole pedal assembly setup. So the plate is all done, all finished. I squirted some primer on that just to keep it protected between now and whenever the heck it gets painted. But I wanted to point out two other things. One, you might have noticed when I was under the car, there was a primer spot just behind the plate. And when you see now is, what the heck's going on here? Well, what happened was, I don't know if it's gonna come through on the video, but when I welded the second support strut, the end of it tied right in here. And of course, welding distortion did its thing, and it shrunk right in here. And this section of the floor was oil canning pretty badly. And I really regret not filming it, but I just started working on it. The next thing I knew, I was done. But what I did is I did some heat shrinking right here. I just used a map torch. You'd think you'd have to have an oxyacetylene gun, but this is pretty thin sheet metal, 19 gauge. And so I just got the map torch out, got that just about red hot, and then quenched it. And then I went at it again. It didn't quite fix it. And I went at it again, got it hot, and then did a little hammer and dollying. I'm able to get the dolly under the car. I could reach under the car with one hand and hammer this. And it is not oil canning at all. It is super tight. And I apologize. That was pretty interesting to watch. And it was the first time I'd ever tried that. And halfway through I thought I've screwed the floor up completely because it was like, woo. But it worked out. So if you're curious about how heat shrinking works, just do a quick search online and you'll see anything from discs on a grinder to get a certain spot hot, and then you quickly quench it and it shrinks the metal and it can take oil canning out. But that worked out really, really well. I was pretty pleased. And again, sorry I didn't film that. But then the next thing I wanted to point out here was, you'll recall from the last episode when I was talking about how these Tilton pedals have these different locations where you can set the pedal heights, and if you turn them upside down, you got more options too. Well, I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that there are three sets of holes, so you can move the pedals, closer together, farther apart on each of these levers. So brake, clutch, and throttle, you can put the pedals, well, not exactly where you want them, but pretty much where you want them relative to each other. So I'm just going to run these centered for right now. I'm pretty sure that's how I did it in the LS car. But it's nice that if you're, if you want to heel toe and have a little bit more, something closer or farther away based on your big feet or your little feet, you can do that. So again, shout out to Tilton for some cool functionality. And now we have got a fully mounted, ready to go pedal assembly. And so I thought I was going to get to some more stuff, but this took way longer than I thought it would. Something, surprised me with something I couldn't have guessed. But that's going to do it for this episode. So, as always, thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys joining me for the 40th episode on the 360 Swap 914 Ferrari here at the Red Barn. And everybody take care. We'll talk to you again real soon. Bye-bye.